You know, Angela and I like to watch Andy Griffith's show. We watch it a ton, all the time, and probably our TV is probably on Andy Griffith's show more than anything else. And actually, that's a fact. It is. But so we go through there, and I like to look at the glass on the front of the grocery store at the time, and tell you what the prices were. Right? It's so cheap, and you start to think, man, I wish things were that simple. I wish things were that cheap again, right? I wish everything was as simple as you see on the Andrew Griffith show. Now think about it. See, I was raised in western North Carolina, and the Blue Ridge Mountains, foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains, and we'd grown up and run up into the woods and play in no worries. Me and my brother would throw baseball or football in the front yard, play basketball in the backyard, dirt court in the backyard, and I keep doing that even by myself. You know, playing basketball or whatnot. When my brother was older than me, was in high school, wasn't doing that with me anymore, and things were always so simple. You know, even down when I was a little kid, there was times we'd ride in the back of my dad's little truck, barefoot, up to this little gas station down by the elementary school where I went to school at, and listen to old country singing, you know, in the bluegrass or whatever, gospel, just guys locally, and you would run around barefoot in the middle of the road and around the gas station and whatnot. It's very simple times. But as an adult, you begin to crave those simpler times and wish things were that way again, right? The fact is, you can't go back to those times. It's over. This is year 2024. 1985 to 1995 is never coming back. Okay, deal with it. Or 1965, 1960s, never coming back, right? For if you're older than me and you're alive in those times ain't coming back. You got to deal with what we got, right? This is the situation that we're in, and it's not like it's bad times. It's just different, right? It's just different, and you always want something simpler. The Israelites found themselves in that same scenario. Numbers chapter 11. The Israelites had been wandering in the desert for a long time, eating nothing but manna for a long time, and they began to get frustrated about it. Chapter 11, Numbers chapter 11, verse 1, it starts out, says, now the people complained about their hardships in the hearing of the Lord. So God heard them. God's like, I hear it. They're complaining right in front of God. Maybe not thinking about it, not realizing it, but God heard them complaining, right? And so they went complaining to Moses about everything, and the Lord heard them. He was not happy and burned up the outside of the camp, right? And so Moses went, talked to God, fire calmed down. But then verse 4 says, the rabble with them began to crave other food, and again the Israelites started wailing and said, if we only had meat to eat. They want some meat. They're tired of this manna. They want to eat some meat. I get it. I like a good steak sometimes. They want some meat though. The truth is, what they were saying was, what God's been providing for us is not enough anymore. We're tired of it. We're not progressing fast enough. Things aren't changing for our better fast enough, and we want something else. That's the truth of what they're saying. They've been on to say in verse 5 that we remember the fish we ate in Egypt at no cost. Also the cucumbers, melons, leeks, onions, and garlic. So they just want some good watermelon, some garlic, onions, and leeks. Some cucumbers. It's funny, but like that's what they were saying, right? It says, now we have lost our appetite. We never see anything but this manna. So they're tired of eating what God's providing. They're tired of consuming what the Lord's providing. They're tired of what God's given them, and they would rather go back to Egypt, be enslaved again, because they say it's at no cost, but no, it did cost them something. It cost them their freedom, it cost them their life. God was trying to send them to a place that's much better, to freedom, and they're tired of it. They're not getting there fast enough. They're not getting to the God's destination for their lives fast enough, and they want what the world was giving them instead. Yeah. We like that or not. They're getting so desperate to get to where God wanted them to be, that now they're looking to the world for answers. How often are we looking to the world for our answers to our godly problems? Man, how often are we doing that? Looking to the world for answers to our godly problems. That's a really tough one for us, I think, because if we were to be honest with ourselves and look at ourselves in the mirror, truthfully look and analyze our actions and our beliefs and our motives for things, we might find that we are more like the Israelites than we'd care to realize, you know. And Numbers 11 goes on to talk about what they did with the manna and how they treated the manna, how they ate the manna, and they were just sick of it, right? So they keep complaining to Moses about all this stuff, and Moses would go to God, and Moses began to be frustrated and say, hey, you know, why did you do this to your servant? These aren't my kids. I didn't give birth to them, right? And he says, I'm looking now. Where can I get meat for all these people? They're wanting meat. Where can I go get enough meat for all these people? Do I need to go slaughter? You know, slaughtering all of our herds and everything still wouldn't be enough and all the fish and sea wouldn't be enough for all these people. He's like, this is 600,000 men. 600,000 men is what was here. Okay, and this is all Numbers 11. I'm just going to summarize it for you. He was looking for meat for 600,000 men and their families at that point. You got to remember. So they all had, you know, a lot of them had wives and a lot of them had kids. So we're a few million people we're going to talk about at this point. Okay, it's a few million people that Moses is leading through the desert away from Egypt, and now they're complaining. Could you imagine being that way, having a few million people at your disposal, and them all of their men coming to you complaining? Wow. I listened to 15 men complain at work during the day, and it's enough for me. So he was complaining about, hey, where can I get enough meat for all these people? And the Lord said, hey, tell them, consecrate yourselves in preparation for tomorrow when you will eat meat. The Lord heard when you wailed, if only we had meat to eat. We were better off in Egypt. Whoa. Boy, tell God you're better off enslaved to the world. That's what they were saying. We're better off enslaved to the world than following you. It's tough. Now the Lord will give you meat, and you will eat it. You will not eat it for just 1 day or 2 days or 5, 10, or 20 days, but for a whole month, until it comes out of your nostrils and you loathe it, because you have rejected the Lord who is among you, and have wailed before him, saying, why did we ever leave Egypt? Okay, so here's what happened. This is verse 31. Now a wind went out from the Lord and drove quail in from the sea. It brought them down all around the camp to about 3 feet above the ground, as far as a day's walk in any direction. Dang, that's a lot of quail. I mean, so you had so much quail that came in from the sea that it was 3 foot high. A 3 foot high pile of quail all around them, a day's walk, as far as a day's walk in any direction. That's a lot of quail, right? And so they went out, gathered them. So all that day and night, and all the next day, people went out and gathered quail. No one gathered less than 10 homers. Okay, so that says here that's probably about 60 bushels. So everybody gathered about 60 bushels or more of quail. That's a lot, right? It's a whole lot of quail. But then what happened was, so while they went out to eat them, so but while the meat was still between their teeth, so while they were eating that dang meat, and before it could be consumed, the anger of the Lord burned against the people, and he struck them with a severe plague. Therefore the place was named Kibroth Hadavah. I guess, I have no idea. I'm from Western North Carolina, I'm not Jewish. But because there they buried the people who had craved other food. Okay. So let's just be honest about ourselves here, okay? I know I went a long way into this to say this. Sometimes, as Christians, we're not progressing fast enough, and then we start to get desperate. And in our desperation, we decide to start doing things that are outside of our character. Instead of following Jesus and staying on the course, things around us get so terrible that we get so desperate to get into a different life, a better life, that we start doing things outside of our character. And our desperation for what God has for us leads us into making decisions for the world. Leads us into seeking our answers in the world. Why? Here you are at this point. You have two decisions. You can go back to where he came from, and either way, go back to where he came from when he decided to leave Egypt, and leave slavery and follow God, or go back to where you came from before then. And you can go chase the world and chase all your answers in slavery to the world, saying you had it better when you were enslaved to the world, like the Israelites. Well, they had it better when they were enslaved to Egypt, right? That's what they were saying. It only cost them their freedom and their life. And then trying to consume what the world wanted for them, they died. Plain and simple, it killed them. Right? That's our choices. Plain and simple, that's our choices today. Go back to where you came from. Either serving the Lord and following God, or serving the world. Serving the Lord or serving the world. Sorry, my accent is going to be a little rough on that one. But you can follow Jesus or follow the world. Plain and simple. Go back to where you came from. My decision would be to go back to where I came from, following God, following Jesus, trusting Him by faith, walking by faith, and knowing that just because things ain't working out immediately right in front of you, and you don't feel like maybe you've progressed to where you should be by now, keep going. It doesn't mean that what God's giving you is not enough. The Israelites were very frustrated by not having enough. What God was giving them every day was not enough for them anymore. They wanted something more, and that's a dangerous place to be. What God gives you is always going to be enough. Always going to be good enough, and it's always better than what you're going to find out here in the world. So let's do that. Let's go back to where we came from, following Jesus. Go back to following Jesus, even when it's hard, even when it's tough. Just go back to following Jesus right then, making decisions by faith, walking by faith, and trusting God that where He has you is good for now, and where He's taking you is better than where the world will ever take you. Alright, so thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. My name is Jason. This is Art of Creation Homestead. We love y'all. God bless you and goodbye.